The rain had slowed to a soft drizzle, leaving the city streets glistening under the amber glow of streetlights. Inside Café Lumière, a small, cozy spot tucked between bookstores and flower shops, the aroma of fresh coffee and baked cinnamon buns mingled with the quiet hum of late evening chatter. Candlelight flickered against the polished wood tables, casting a golden glow across the small room. At a corner table, near the window that looked out onto the slick streets, Ethan Caldwell sat alone. 35, dressed neatly in a charcoal sweater and dark jeans, he checked his watch for the third time in 10 minutes. His fingers drummed nervously against the table. 20 minutes had passed, and the chair across from him remained empty. He had been on enough blind dates to know the signs. Delays could be forgiven. 15 minutes was suspicious. 20 was nearly unacceptable. Tonight his best friend had insisted he meet someone new. Ethan, she said, you work yourself to the bone. You need someone who sees you, not just your spreadsheets. I found someone. She's kind, funny, smart. Just show up on time. Ethan had tried to believe it, but every blind date he endured ended the same way, polite nods, awkward silences, and the quiet sting of rejection. Tonight he had hoped it would be different. He wanted hope. He wanted a spark. As he reached for his coffee, a soft shuffle of small footsteps caught his attention. He looked up. A tiny figure, no older than 4, wove between tables, clutching a small, worn teddy bear. Her blonde curls bounced around her face, tied with a faded pink ribbon, and her coat hung slightly too large on her small frame. She walked with the determined focus of someone on a mission. Excuse me, she said, her voice clear, polite and firm. Are you Mr. Caldwell? Ethan blinked. A child? Sent alone? I am, he said, unsure. I'm Mia, she said, standing tall despite her small stature. Mommy told me to find you and give you a message. Ethan raised his eyebrows. A message? She nodded solemnly. She says she's sorry she's late. Parking took forever. But she wants you to wait and not leave because she really wants to meet you. I had to make sure you knew. Ethan's irritation vanished. Warmth replaced annoyance. Connection. Something he hadn't realized he'd missed. You walked all the way here by yourself? He asked, leaning forward slightly. Mia's expression remained serious. Yes. I was on a mission. Mommy showed me your picture so I would know who to find. You were sitting by the window with the candle. That's how I knew it was you. Ethan laughed softly, genuine and surprised. Well, mission accomplished, Detective Mia. She beamed. Then, without warning, she asked, Are you going to marry my mommy? Ethan almost choked on his coffee. Wait, what? Are you going to marry my mommy? Mia repeated. Mrs. Peterson next door says she needs someone nice. Mommy says it's hard with me around because some men don't like kids. Do you like kids? Before Ethan could answer, the cafe door swung open. A woman, golden hair damp and curling around her forehead, rushed in, cheeks flushed with embarrassment. Mia, I told you to wait by the door, she exclaimed. Oh my God. I'm so sorry. Mia looked up proudly. I found him, Mommy. I told him you were sorry. Ethan watched them, feeling an unexpected warmth. The awkward tension, the lateness, the waiting, all of it melted away. Something about these two, mother and child, made him feel that maybe tonight, just maybe, he had stumbled onto something worth staying for. And then Mia leaned across the table, looking him straight in the eye, whispering, Mommy says she hopes you don't run away. Ethan froze. Something inside him shifted. He realized in that small, brave voice that his life, empty, routine, lonely, was about to change in ways he couldn't yet imagine. The door to Café Lumière swung shut behind her, shutting out the damp chill of the evening. Isabel Harper wiped rain from her curls, cheeks flushed and eyes wide with embarrassment. Her gaze darted between Ethan and Mia, and for a heartbeat, silence held the small space like a fragile thread. I'm so sorry, Isabel stammered, removing her wet coat. Parking was impossible then. I couldn't figure out the meter. I didn't expect her to take matters into her own hands. Ethan leaned back slightly, studying her. She was in her late 20s, graceful yet understated, with kind eyes that carried quiet exhaustion. But it wasn't tiredness that drew him, it was honesty. Every line of her face, every careful movement, radiated someone who had endured life's struggles yet refused to lose warmth or hope. Mia perched on the chair across from him, gripping the edge with tiny fingers, her expression unwavering. "I told him you were sorry," she said proudly, as if reporting the success of a mission. Isabel laughed softly, a mix of relief and embarrassment. She knelt to smooth Mia's curls. "Yes, thank you, baby. You were brave. But next time, please wait for me." Ethan's lips lifted in a quiet, genuine smile. Here was a mother and daughter navigating life with courage, humor, and love. And they were standing right in front of him. "I'm glad you made it," Ethan said. "And your daughter is very persuasive." Isabel's laugh softened further as she sat across from him, settling Mia beside her. He tugged lightly at the chair, creating a subtle boundary. "I should have told you about Mia when we arranged this," she admitted quietly. "It was wrong not to. I understand if you want to leave." Ethan studied her, seeing the fear beneath the apology, the fear of being judged for having a child, for living a life complicated in ways many couldn't understand. His heart twisted. "Leave?" he asked gently. "Why would I want to leave?" Isabel glanced down. "Most men do when they find out about Mia. I've learned to mention it up front now. I just wanted one evening where I wasn't judged before anyone even met me." Ethan looked at Mia, who watched the exchange like a tiny judge, then back at Isabel. In her nervous expression, he saw a story untold. Strength, laughter hiding behind hesitation, and a fierce, unflinching love. "You know," he said slowly, "I've spent the last 10 years building a career, achieving success by traditional measures. But I go home to an empty apartment every night. Lately I've been wondering, what's the point if there's no one to share it with?" Isabel's eyes widened, unsure if she should respond. Ethan continued, voice soft but steady. "Watching you tonight, the way you care for Mia, the way you handle life, it's remarkable. It reminds me the best things in life aren't things at all. They're people, connections, moments like this." Mia's tiny hand brushed against his, and he caught her gaze. She nodded once, solemnly, as if acknowledging he was under inspection, and perhaps approving. Isabel felt a lump rise in her throat. Someone who could see her life not as a burden but as something beautiful. It was a feeling she hadn't known in years. Ethan's eyes met hers. "I'd like to try. I want to get to know you both better. If you'll let me." Mia's lips curved into a mischievous grin, clearly judging him already. Isabel laughed softly, a mix of relief and hope. Then Mia leaned forward, tiny voice earnest. "So you're not going to run away, are?" Ethan froze, warmth spreading through his chest. In that small, unwavering gaze, he realized this evening was no longer about awkward first impressions. It was the beginning of something that might change everything. Isabel's smile faltered slightly as she asked softly, "Ethan, can you handle all of this? Me and Mia?" The soft hum of the cafe blended with the quiet patter of rain outside. Ethan watched as Mia, seated beside her mother, slid the crayons across the paper, absorbed in a world of scribbles and little doodles. The seriousness in her eyes reminded him again how determined she was to run her little world with complete authority. Isabel leaned back in her chair, a small smile on her lips as she observed him. "She can be intense," she said quietly. "But she's honest. That's her strength and sometimes her chaos." Ethan chuckled. "Intense, honest sounds familiar," he said, glancing at her with a spark of humor in his tired eyes. Mia suddenly looked up, eyes narrowing in evaluation. "Do you know how to play?" she asked, tilting her head. Ethan froze. "Play dolls," she clarified, holding up a tiny figure from her coloring sheet. "You have to make them talk and tell a story. It's very important. Mommy says you have to be good at it if you want to be part of our family." He swallowed hard, trying to hide his nervousness. I'm not sure I know how." Mia's face scrunched in mild disappointment. Then you have to learn. You have to try. Isabel laughed softly, the sound warm and musical. She has a very specific standard, she warned him. But she means well. Ethan reached for a crayon, feeling absurd. Yet something inside him stirred, a strange eagerness to rise to this tiny challenge. He picked a doll and held it out. "Hello," he said in his best animated voice. "I'm Sir Teddy, and I will guard the kingdom from any evil vegetables." Mia's eyes widened. Then she let out a small giggle. "Close enough," she declared. "But sir, Teddy needs a sidekick." She grabbed another crayon figure and held it to him. For the next 10 minutes, the cafe disappeared for Ethan. He was no longer the successful businessman worrying about deadlines and boardrooms. He was a storyteller, an actor, a participant in a miniature world ruled by imagination. Mia dictated plots, changed outcomes mid-scene, and occasionally looked to him for approval. And he followed, learning the rhythm of her tiny universe, laughing more than he had in years. Isabel watched silently, a quiet awe in her eyes. She realized something she hadn't admitted aloud. Seeing Ethan adapt, care, and genuinely engage with Mia was more meaningful than any blind date conversation could ever be. At one point, Mia leaned closer to Ethan, her tiny voice conspiratorial. "Mommy says you have to like pancakes too. Special pancakes. Only people who love her get the special pancakes." Ethan laughed, a deep, heartfelt sound that caught Isabel off guard. "Special pancakes? I think I can manage that," he said solemnly, holding out his hand for a high five. Mia complied, slapping her tiny hand against his, her smile wide and approving. "Okay, you might pass the test." Isabel's chest tightened. This was the moment she had feared for years, introducing a potential partner to her daughter. But Ethan, sitting there awkwardly yet completely present, was not intimidated, not dismissive. He was participating. He was showing care, patience, and willingness. And somehow, that mattered more than charm or looks. As the evening wore on, the light outside softened, the rain turning to a gentle drizzle. Ethan returned to his coffee for a moment, glancing at the mother and daughter. The empty chair that had haunted him earlier now felt irrelevant. Across from him was a small family unit he was beginning to understand and long to be part of. Then Mia, ever observant, leaned in again. "Mommy says you might be okay. But you have to keep playing." Ethan grinned. "I think I can do that." Isabel felt tears prick her eyes, not from sadness, but from relief. Someone had arrived not just to meet her, but to truly see her and her daughter. And just as Ethan handed Mia a new crayon, ready to continue their game, Isabel's voice dropped to a whisper. "Ethan, do you think you could ever be part of our life?" The cafe had quieted, the soft patter of rain outside blending with the gentle hum of the heater. Candlelight flickered across the table, reflecting in Isabel's eyes as she watched Ethan across from her. Mia was absorbed in coloring, humming a little tune, oblivious to the tension slowly settling between the adults. Ethan had laughed with Mia, played dolls, and even attempted her special pancake test. But now, sitting across from Isabel, he realized the moment had shifted. The playful energy had given way to something heavier, something real, something that could change both of their lives forever. "I should tell you something," Isabel began softly, her fingers tracing the rim of her coffee cup. Her voice trembled slightly, betraying the nerve she'd worked so hard to hide. About Mia, about our life." Ethan leaned in slightly, his expression open, patient. "Anything," he said. She took a deep breath. "I'm a single mother. I've been raising Mia alone since she was born. And some days it's overwhelming. Some nights I wonder if I'm doing it right. Most men see this as complicated, as a burden." Ethan nodded slowly, taking in her words. "I see it," he said quietly. "And I don't see it as a burden. I see love, strength, dedication." Isabel's eyes softened, but a flicker of fear remained. "It's more than love. It's responsibility. Routines, rules, a world that's already built I can't lie to you. I need someone who sees that. And doesn't run. Ethan studied her, really studied her, and for the first time in years, he didn't feel the urge to impress. He felt clarity. I don't have experience raising a child, he admitted, voice steady. But I have the willingness to try. I've spent too long building walls around myself. Maybe this is my chance to take them down. Isabel blinked, a small smile tugging at her lips. Walls, she whispered. Mia thinks I need them to protect her. And I thought I did too. Ethan reached across the table slowly, letting his hand hover before brushing hers gently. I'm not here to fix anything, he said softly. I just want to see you. And Mia, I want to be part of your life, if you'll let me. Her chest tightened. Relief and hope collided inside her. Someone had arrived not just to meet her, but to truly see her. And her daughter. You make it sound simpler than I imagined, she whispered. Ethan smiled softly. I'm not promising easy. Just worth it. From the corner of the table, Mia suddenly looked up, eyes wide and serious. Mommy says if you mean it, you have to keep playing with us. And you have to like pancakes. Special pancakes. Ethan chuckled, holding out his hand for a high five. Deal, he said, and Mia slapped her tiny hand against his with a triumphant grin. Isabel laughed softly, tears threatening. In that small moment, she realized something she hadn't admitted in years. This man, this stranger who had walked into their messy, complicated life, was showing he might stay. He wasn't afraid of her past, her routines, or the little whirlwind she called Mia. He was willing to be present. The candlelight flickered across Ethan's face as he looked at Isabel. The warmth in his gaze, the sincerity in his words, the patience with her daughter, it was undeniable. Just as relief settled in, Mia leaned close to her mother and whispered in a tiny, serious voice. Mommy, what if he doesn't stay? And in that question, the fragile hope between them was challenged, leaving the night hanging on a promise, and a choice that Ethan would have to make. The next morning, sunlight spilled across the kitchen of Isabel's apartment, painting the small room in warm gold. Mia was at the counter, her little hands busy with a mixing bowl, carefully pouring flour for pancakes. Ethan stood beside her, trying to follow instructions, without spilling anything, though the batter clung stubbornly to his fingers. Slowly, Mia said, her voice serious, as if she were a tiny chef in charge of a high-stakes kitchen. Mommy says you have to learn the secret pancake technique. Ethan laughed, shaking flour from his hands. Secret technique, got it. Teach me, oh, master chef. Mia's lips curved into a small, approving smile. Okay. First you have to stir like this, no. Faster, no slower. And you have to sing a song while you stir. That's very important. Isabel leaned against the doorway, watching them. She smiled softly, noticing how naturally Ethan had slipped into Mia's world. No hesitation, no julgue-me, no avart. Distance, just presence. Watching him laugh with her daughter, kneel down to measure, batter, and carefully follow her instructions, she realized something she hadn't dared hope. Maybe this was the beginning of something lasting. Ethan glanced at her, wiping a bit of batter from his cheek, and said quietly, I'm going to need your help if these pancakes are going to be special enough for Mia. Isabel felt warmth spread through her chest. You're doing fine, she said softly. She's already impressed. Mia looked up suddenly, eyes sparkling. Mommy, he's doing it right. He's a learning. Ethan smiled down at her. I'm learning. And I want to keep learning about pancakes and playing dolls and about both of you. Mia's serious expression softened, and she climbed onto a stool beside him. Then you might pass the test, she said, handing him the spatula. Later, as the pancakes sizzled on the griddle, Ethan found himself asking Mia about her favorite stories, her friends at daycare, and even the small adventures she had imagined for her dolls. She told him with dramatic flair about a princess rescuing a dragon, pausing to check if he was paying attention. He laughed, offered suggestions, and followed her lead, never once dismissing her world. Isabel watched quietly, heart swelling. This wasn't just about a man showing interest, it was about him showing care, patience, and genuine attention. She had met many people over the years, but few had the quiet bravery to enter a life already built and embrace it with open hands. When the pancakes were finally stacked high, Mia clapped her small hands together. Special pancakes. You did it, Mr. Ethan. Ethan held up a golden stack. For the toughest critic in town, he said. Mia beamed, taking a bite and nodding solemnly. Approved. Very, very approved. Isabel sat beside them, taking a bite herself, and sighed in contentment. You two make quite the team, she said, watching the dynamic unfold. Ethan glanced at her, a quiet seriousness in his eyes. I want to be part of your team, Isabel. Not just for pancakes or playtime, but for all of it. If you'll let me. Isabel's chest tightened. She had feared being judged, feared someone running when confronted with the reality of a daughter and a life already full. But here he was standing beside her and Mia, willing to embrace both of them fully. Mia, ever perceptive, looked up and asked quietly, Mommy, do you think he'll stay this time? Isabel smiled, brushing a curl from her face. I think he just might, she said and looked at Ethan with a mixture of hope and gratitude. Ethan, catching the glance, smiled back. It was a quiet promise, unspoken but powerful. A promise to try, to learn and to stay. Later that afternoon, as they cleaned the dishes together, Mia tugged on Ethan's sleeve and whispered, Promise me you'll still play even when life gets hard? The weekend brought bright sunlight streaming through the Harper apartment, but the warmth outside couldn't dissolve the tension that had quietly crept into the small household. Mia sat cross-legged on the living room floor, frowning as she arranged her dolls in a precise formation. Ethan leaned against the doorway, watching her, sensing that the tiny commander was in full judgment mode. Why are you frowning like that? He asked cautiously, stepping closer. Mia didn't look up. Because you didn't put the blanket over the princess, she said firmly. You have to follow the rules, Mr. Ethan. That's how it works. Ethan chuckled nervously. Rules, got it. I'll fix it right away. He gently draped the miniature blanket over the doll, trying not to spill the tea set nearby. Mia's expression softened slightly, but the frown remained. She turned to Ethan with sudden seriousness. Mommy says some people come and go. But if you want to stay, you have to try, even when it's hard. Can you do that? Ethan felt his chest tighten. This wasn't just about dolls or pancakes anymore. This was a test, a tiny human measuring his willingness to accept a life that wasn't simple, that came with responsibility, love, and challenges. I'll try, he said slowly, kneeling beside her. I don't promise I'll be perfect, but I promise I'll try. Every single day. Mia studied him for a long moment, then nodded decisively. Okay, you might pass the test, but you have to keep playing. Isabel entered the room quietly, observing Ethan and Mia with a mix of relief and hesitation. I think she's testing you, she said softly, more to herself than to him. She wants to see if you're serious. Ethan looked up at her, sincerity in his eyes. I am, he said simply. I don't just like Mia or pancakes or games. I like both of you. I want to be part of your lives. Isabel's throat tightened. Hearing him say it aloud made her heart ache in the best way. She had lived through years of men who shied away from her reality, who couldn't embrace her life with Mia. And now, standing here, she saw someone willing to step fully into both of their worlds. The day passed with laughter, playful arguments, and tiny victories. Ethan learned Mia's bedtime routine, her secret method for arranging dolls, and even the exact temperature her pancakes needed. Each small success brought him closer, but also deeper into the realization that love wasn't just about grand gestures. It was about showing up consistently, even when life demanded patience, flexibility, and heart. But as the afternoon faded into evening, a minor disagreement threatened the harmony. Mia wanted Ethan to read a story in a very specific, proper way, and he fumbled the words, causing her to stomp her tiny foot in frustration. Mr. Ethan, she exclaimed, voice shaking. That's all wrong. You're messing it up. Isabel stepped in gently, kneeling beside her daughter. Sweetheart, he's trying. Everyone makes mistakes. That's okay. Mia crossed her arms, still pouting. Ethan took a deep breath, kneeling to meet her gaze. I'm sorry, Mia. I messed up. Can we try again? I want to do it right because it's important to you. Mia's eyes softened slightly, then she nodded. Okay, but you have to really try this time. Ethan smiled warmly. I will. I promise. Isabel watched silently, realizing this small exchange was monumental. Love, she saw, wasn't just about romance. It was patience. It was showing up again and again despite mistakes, frustrations, and life's unexpected chaos. As Ethan began reading, Mia's tiny hand reached for his, and she whispered solemnly, If you really stay, you have to promise, no matter what, you don't run away. The sun had just begun to set, spilling warm amber light through the living room windows. Ethan sat cross-legged on the carpet beside Mia, carefully arranging her dolls in a new formation. Every detail mattered to her. The princess in the center, the knight strategically placed, the tiny castle drawn in the corner of the playmat. Mia watched him with narrowed eyes, as though inspecting his every move. You better not mess this up, she said solemnly. Mommy says this is very important. Ethan smiled, placing a tiny figurine gently. I know. I promise I'll do my best. She leaned back and studied him for a long moment. Your best better be really good, she said. At that moment, Isabel entered the room, carrying 2 mugs of cocoa. She set one in front of Ethan and the other beside her daughter, a quiet smile tugging at her lips. I think he's doing fine, she said softly, her voice a mixture of amusement and warmth. Mia glared at her mother. Mommy, you can't interfere. He has to earn it. Ethan laughed quietly, reaching for the next doll. I'm earning it. I want to earn it. For the next hour, the living room became a miniature kingdom. Ethan followed Mia's precise instructions, adapting, improvising, and learning. He accidentally knocked over a castle tower once, and Mia gasped dramatically, but he calmly helped her rebuild it. Each small success brought smiles, giggles, and tiny words of praise from Mia. Finally, after an hour of careful play, Mia leaned back, arms crossed, a small smile breaking through her serious expression. Okay, she said. You did good. Mommy says you might be okay. But remember, it's not just dolls. You have to keep trying. Always. Ethan nodded solemnly. I will. I promise. Isabel watched them quietly, feeling a warmth she hadn't felt in years. Seeing Ethan adapt so naturally, embracing Mia's world, and showing genuine care touched something deep inside her. She realized that for the first time in a long time, she wasn't just hoping, she was seeing the possibility of a future with him. Mia hopped off the stool and tugged on Ethan's sleeve. Come on. You have to try the pancake game again. Mommy says the secret recipe is important for people who stay in our family. Ethan chuckled, following her into the kitchen. As they mixed ingredients and sang silly songs together, Isabel leaned against the counter, watching. She could see it now, the way Ethan's presence calmed her daughter, the way he laughed without hesitation, the way he showed patience and attention to every detail. By the time the pancakes were stacked high and golden, Mia clapped her small hands together. Special pancakes. Approved, she declared. Ethan held them out, grinning. You've earned your spot in our world, Isabel said softly, eyes shimmering with emotion. Ethan looked at her, realizing that he wasn't just earning approval from a little girl. He was gaining the trust of the woman he cared about most. He took a deep breath. I'm not perfect, he said quietly. I will make mistakes, but I will stay. I want to be part of both of you. Not just for fun, but for life. Isabel felt tears prick her eyes. This was more than words. It was a promise, a demonstration, a choice made visible through action. She took a step closer, her hand brushing against his. I believe you, she whispered. Mia, perched on a stool with a syrup-covered pancake in hand, looked between them. So, you're really staying? she asked, eyes wide and hopeful. Ethan knelt to her level, taking her small hands in his. Yes, Mia. I'm stayin'. No matter what. Mia's face lit up, and she threw her arms around him in a tiny, firm hug. Good. That's important, she said. But just as the warmth settled in the kitchen, Ethan's phone buzzed on the counter. A work call. His eyes flicked to Isabel, torn between his old life and the one he was choosing. Hesitated. And the next decision would define everything. The next morning, sunlight streamed through the living room blinds, casting long shadows. Across the floor, Ethan sat on the couch, staring at his phone. A work email blinked on the screen, urgent, demanding, unavoidable. A high-stakes project that could make or break a major deal. But as he looked up, the sight of Isabel kneeling beside Mia, helping her lace up tiny shoes for a daycare outing, made his chest tighten. He realized suddenly and painfully that this was the life he wanted, not the life of endless meetings and boardroom deals. Not the life that demanded every ounce of him while leaving his heart empty. Mia looked up at him with wide, expectant eyes. Mr. Ethan, are you coming to play with us today? She asked. Innocence and hope radiated from her, but beneath it was a subtle question he felt deep in his gut. Can you really stay? Ethan swallowed hard, his fingers hovering over the phone. Every instinct screamed. Responsibility, ambition, the weight of his previous life, but his heart whispered louder. He stood and crossed the room, kneeling to Mia's level. I'm not going anywhere, he said, firmly, letting the words sink into the small space between them. I choose this choosing. You and your mommy. I want to be part of your world. No work call, no meeting, nothing will change that. Mia's eyes lit up. She reached for his hand, her tiny fingers intertwining with his. Really? You're staying? Really? Ethan said, smiling, feeling a sense of peace he hadn't known in years. Isabel, watching quietly from the doorway, felt tears prick her eyes. He was choosing them, not just for fun, not just for convenience, but truly, fully, consciously. For the first time, she felt the weight of hope replace the shadow of fear that had lingered for years. That afternoon, the three of them spent hours together, building block towers, playing dolls, and sharing laughter that echoed through the apartment. Ethan learned how Mia liked her tea, half sugar, a tiny splash of milk, and discovered the exact way she wanted her dolls. Hairbrushed. Each detail, each moment, reinforced a bond that had started small but now felt unbreakable. But it wasn't just play. It was trust. It was showing up even when life got complicated. It was patience, dedication, and vulnerability, all rolled into a series of small, meaningful gestures. As the sun dipped lower, casting a golden glow across the room, Ethan looked at Isabel. You know, he said softly, I've spent years chasing things I thought mattered. Money, success, recognition. But none of it felt real. None of it felt right. Until now. Until you two. Isabel's chest tightened. It's scary, she admitted. Letting someone into our lives, letting someone see everything, mistakes, chaos, life as it is. Ethan took her hand gently. I know, but I don't want perfect. I want real. And this is the most real thing I've ever wanted. Mia, watching them, tilted her head with childlike wisdom. So, you're really part of our team now. Ethan smiled, crouching down. I am. And I promise, no matter what, I won't leave. The evening settled into a quiet, golden calm. The rain had stopped outside, leaving the world fresh and clean. It felt like a turning point. Not just a decision for Ethan, but a promise that love, family, and connection were worth more than any career triumph. As Ethan and Isabel exchanged a quiet, meaningful look, Mia whispered almost conspiratorially. Tomorrow, will you ask Mommy the big question? The weight of that innocent query hung in the air, a subtle heartbeat before the story reached its emotional crescendo. The cafe where it all began was quiet that evening, bathed in the soft glow of lanterns and candlelight. Outside, snowflakes drifted lazily through the air, settling gently on the cobblestone sidewalk. Ethan chose this place deliberately, not just for nostalgia, but because it held the memory of the night that had changed everything. When Mia, small and determined, had marched up to him and delivered her mother's message, Mia sat beside Isabel, coloring carefully in her little notebook, glancing up at Ethan with a mixture of hope and curiosity. Isabel's fingers brushed against his on the table, their hands intertwined, a silent connection that spoke volumes. The warmth between the three of them was palpable, a delicate thread of love and trust stretching across the table. Ethan took a deep breath, kneeling slightly to meet Mia's gaze. "Mia," he said softly, "I need to ask you something important." Her eyes widened. "What is it?" she asked, her tiny hands clutching her crayons. "I want to ask your mommy to marry me," Ethan said, his voice steady but full of emotion. "But I can't do that without your blessing too. Would you like me to be your daddy?" Mia's expression grew serious. She tilted her head, examining him with the scrutiny only a child can give. "Would you be my daddy?" she asked again, as if making sure she truly understood. Ethan smiled gently, his heart swelling. "I would be honored, Mia. I love your mommy and I love you. I want to be part of your family, not to replace anyone from your past, but to build a life together with both of you." Mia's face broke into a radiant smile, and she leaped into his arms. "Okay, but you have to get better at playing dolls. And you have to learn mommy's special pancake recipe." Ethan laughed, holding her close. "Deal. I promise." He stood, turning to Isabel. Candlelight reflected in her eyes, showing a mix of hope, nervous excitement, and love. "You and Mia, you've shown me what truly matters," he said. "I've spent years chasing success, money, and recognition. None of it mattered as much as this, being with both of you, building a life together. Isabel, will you marry me?" Tears welled in her eyes as she reached for his hands. "Yes," she whispered, voice trembling, full of relief and joy. Mia clapped her hands, squealing. "He's my daddy now. Everyone should be happy," she announced, drawing warm smiles from the few patrons who had been quietly watching. Ethan embraced both of them, feeling the weight of years of loneliness dissolve in that single moment. Snowflakes fell softly outside, lanterns flickered, and laughter filled the cafe, proof that love often arrives in unexpected packages. 6 months later, they returned to the cafe for their wedding. Mia, proud and confident, was the flower girl, gleefully telling every guest that she had found Ethan first. Isabel's toast captured the essence of their journey. "I was nervous about meeting someone with a daughter, but Mia, being brave and determined, delivered our first message. Ethan didn't run. He embraced our world, our family, and loved us completely. He showed that the best things in life often arrive in unexpected ways, sometimes carried in the hands of a tiny, determined child." Ethan held both of them close. "Thank you for trusting me, for letting me in, for showing me that love is worth every risk," he whispered. Mia leaned against him, looking up. "Daddy, we're happy now, right?" "Yes, sweetheart," Ethan said softly, kissing her forehead. "We're very, very happy now." Outside, the snow continued to fall gently, a quiet witness to a family forged not by circumstance, but by love, trust, and the courage to embrace life's unexpected gifts. Sometimes, life's greatest blessings arrive in the most unexpected ways. A determined 3-year-old, a single mother with a brave heart, and a man willing to see what others overlook. Like, share, and subscribe for more Soulverse stories about love, family, and moments that change everything.